Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Medic here. I'm back with another stupid video examining a 16, nearly 17-year-old video game. This time, rather than trying to figure out how much a video game character could theoretically lift in a gym or sharing my terrible weapon balance ideas, I'm going to be looking at another aspect of fitness. In this video, we're going to see how quickly the TF2 mercenaries can run a mile. Now, how is this going to work? Unlike my lifting video, there will actually be number crunching. We'll be looking at the average time in which it takes a mercenary to run a mile. This means at his base movement speed. After this, we will then be looking at the fastest possible mile TF2 Merc could run. In that examination, we'll be equipping whatever weapon allows for the fastest movement speed possible by that specific class, and any speed buffs that may actually help them, such as the Conjurer or the Disciplinary Action. This allows for unlockables and anything that can help them get faster. While I may bring it up, technically every class can move at max velocity of 3,500 hammer units in Team Fortress 2, but this isn't achievable by normal classes unless you're playing by Soldier or Demoman, and even then, it's pretty hard to achieve outside of like jump maps, so while I may talk about it briefly and bring it up, I'm not really going to consider it for this list. After that, we'll then be looking at the slowest possible speed. This includes any sort of debuff or action that slows the player. What will not be included are certain strategies to intentionally slow yourself, such as Scout Shuffle or moving backwards. I will also be eliminating crouching, grappling hooks, and external factors such as the Sandman Stun, as, let's be real, no one's crouching / using a grappling hook when running a mile. Plus, if someone is hitting a baseball at you with the intention of slowing you down, why'd you make the turn around the track? Get the hell out of here, what are you doing? Lastly, I'll be making the best guess for how fast I believe that the TF2 Mercs can run a mile. Obviously, TF2 mercenaries don't get tired. You can run in a straight line at top speed for hours and hours, and the mercenaries never get tired, never need a water break. But real people do. So this is where I'm going to do guesswork. This will be based off how well conditioned I think the classes are. With all that out of the way, let's dive in. Just like the last Mercs video, I'm going to go in order that they appear in the class selection screen. I will leave timestamps so that you can skip to a specific class if you want to for whatever reason. This means that we're going to start off with Scout. Scout is fast, I mean come on, you all saw this coming. You knew who the top dog was likely to be, but let's actually examine him. Scout, in-game, moves at 133% movement speed. Though what does this mean? Well, it is a simple way of displaying how fast characters can move from base, with Inji, Sniper, Pyro, and Spy before the Meet Your Match update, moving at 100% or 320 hammer units. Hammer units? What is this? For the uninformed, hammer units are a unit of measure used by the hammer editor, which is typically used for making maps. It has other functions, but I don't know of them because I can't handle more than 5 minutes of messing around with hammer's controls until I give up. So, many ideas that never came to life because I'm too impatient. Anyway. Hammer units don't actually tell us much. However, we do know that a hammer unit is 1/16 of a foot, or 1.905 centimeters. So we can use this conversion to do a bit of 6th grade math to figure out how fast the characters can move. Base Scout moves at 133%, or 400 hammer units by default. This is with no attachments, no speed boosts, nothing like that. This is pretty fast. How fast is that, you ask? Well, by doing some simple math, carrying the 1, and doing some complex conversions, or simply just using a website that does it for me, the Scout moves at 17.045 miles per hour, or about 28 kilometers per hour. That is really fast. By doing some simple math, not using a website this time, Scout, assuming he is able to run this speed the entire duration, which is unrealistic, which is why I give the realistic guess at the end, could run a mile in 3.44 minutes. That's a really weird way of looking at it. When putting it into normal people measurements, it comes out to about 3 minutes and 27 seconds, rounded up. Most of these I'm simply going to either round up or round down. This means that on a track, Scout can have run the fastest mile in history, and off a track would have tied for the fastest mile ever. And this is just base movement speed. We still have to look at his unlocks. This is going to be a bloodbath. Unlockables. What unlockables increase movement speed for Scout? Well, I think we're all thinking the same thing. The Babyface's Blaster at full boost. When at full boost, the Babyface's blaster will increase the Scout's base movement speed by 40% from 133% to 173%. When put in the hammer units, this is an increase from 400 hammer units to 520 hammer units. That is blazing speed. Some of you may be saying, what about the speed buff from the disciplinary action or conch? Well, unfortunately, they do not affect a full boost Babyface Blaster Scout. So, okay. 520 hammer units, when converted into miles per hour, comes out to about 22.159 miles per hour, or 35.7 kilometers per hour. So when looking how fast the Scout could run 1 mile at top speed, he could run it in 2 minutes and 42 seconds. If you know anything about distance running, you know this is a ridiculous number. This is over a minute faster than the current record mile time on a track, and honestly, if someone was to run this now in 2024, at the time of recording, we would probably send them to court for witchcraft, because this is just ridiculous. Alas, this is only a video game, so, he's safe for now. With that, we move on to the slowest. What if Scout let himself go a little bit? As I said, I'm ruling out any sort of cheese methods in order to move slower, such as shuffling, crouch walking, running backwards, etc. So we're going to have to turn to unlocks. Some of you may have immediately raised your hand. Why? This is a YouTube video, I can't see them. Put them down. No, it's not the Babyface's blaster. We are actually going to turn to the Bonk Atomic Punch. If you take more than 200 damage while the effects are active, you'll move 50% slower once the duration runs out. Except this isn't actually true. 50% of 400, which is Scout's base movement speed, is 200. However, it is actually capped at 225. So you move a little bit faster than half speed. And no, this does not stack with the Babyface's blaster. So with this information, Scout moves at about 9.57 miles per hour. So this one's pretty easy. We cut Scout speed in about half, and now I know in-game effects wear off, but we're just going to assume that the effects last the entire time to save me from insanity. So, with this information, the Scout's slowest possible mile time is a measly 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Which is bad for Scouts, but it's funnily enough above average for the average person. Cap it off, finally I'm going to give my personal guess. In reality, a Scout isn't going to run at top speed for the entire duration. Nobody can full sprint a whole mile, at least nobody that I know of. So, what am I going to do? Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to take a percentage of speed. There are so many variables to take into account, but I believe that Scout could easily run consistently the whole time, just not at top speed. I'm going to say he's in the upper echelon of running at 85% for 3/4 of the race, and at 80% for the last lap. What do I mean by that? I believe that he can run 85% of his sprint speed for the first 3 laps, and then 80% of his sprint speed for the last lap. Now, of course, like I said, there's variables. Some people slow down, and some people sprint the last little bit, but once again, this is how I'm going to do it. It's just easier this way. And either way, I might be off by at most 5-10 seconds if we were to use this system. So this would mean that Scout runs at 14.79 miles per hour for the first 3 laps, finishing in 3 minutes and 2 seconds, which is blazing speed. However, he still has one more to go. Running his last lap in 1 minute and 7 seconds, which is 80% of his sprint speed, this means he could run a mile in 4 minutes and 9 seconds. That is still stupid fast, and it will be tough to beat. So here are the final times. At his base movement speed, he nearly ties the world record at 3 minutes and 31 seconds. At its fastest, he shatters all records by a wide margin with a time of 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Even at his slowest, he is still beating out the average person with a mile time of 6 minutes and 15 seconds. And finally, for my reasonable/realistic guess, I would say Scout can run a mile in about 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Alright, from the fastest class in the game to the second slowest class in the game, at least when it comes to boots on the ground, the Soldier. Soldier in game is not all that quick, but he makes up for it with the ability to rocket jump. He is one of the only classes in the game that can realistically reach max velocity of 3,500 hammer units. Like I said, I'm not going to dwell on this, but I'll bring it up for a bit of fun. 3,500 hammer units is approximately 149.14 miles per hour, so if the soldier was able to reach max velocity of 3,500 hammer units before starting the mile and then maintain that throughout the duration of the mile, he would be finished in just 24 seconds. Yeah, for an average of 6 seconds per lap. That's something. Now for the actual numbers. Soldier in game moves at 80% or 240 hammer units. This is pretty slow, only being 3% faster or 10 hammer units faster than the heavy. While he does have ways to make up for it, such as rocket jumping, the conch, disciplinary action, yeah, at base he's pretty slow. 240 units when converted to miles per hour is 10.227 or 16.46 kilometers per hour. Meaning if Soldier were to run at this speed for the entire mile, which is very unlikely, he would run a mile in 5 minutes and 52 seconds. While the Soldier is in good shape, this number is just it feels wrong, you know. Though this is the truth of the matter. At base speed, Soldier can run a mile in 5 minutes and 52 seconds. Soldier at its fastest is actually really easy, as it can be pulled off in game without the assistance of outside effects such as other soldiers' disciplinary action, conches, etc. We all know the escape plan makes you almost as fast as Scout, 128% to be exact, so only 5% slower than the Scout. Though the conch actually stacks with the escape plan. Yeah, it does. And it's actually enough to reach the speed cap, which is 173%, 520 hammer units, or the same as a full boost Babyface's Blaster Scout. This means that without having to do any math, Soldier will be able to run a full speed mile in 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Once again, I must point this out, or there is a chance that one of the few people who actually watched this segment of the video would point out, yes, the conch gives health back, which would negate the escape plan eventually, and the conch obviously runs out. All this is true, I don't care. And finally, we move on to the slowest the Soldier can move. What makes Soldier move slower? Man, I can't. Oh yeah, the secondary shot for the Cow Mangler. The Cow Mangler's secondary charge shot slows the Soldier down to just 27% speed. Fun fact, the charge shot will only slow you down to 27% speed period, whether you're moving forward, backwards, strafing left or right. Your speed will always be set to 27%, which is unlike anything else in the game that I can think of. What is 27% though? Well, 27% when converted to hammer units is 80. Which is the speed that Heavy used to walk while revved up before it was up to 110, which I talked about in my fun facts video. You should really go check that out. I'll put like a times card or something up there, maybe in the description. Please check that out. I put so much time into that video. But anyway, or the speed that Sniper walks while scoped in with a standard sniper rifle. So, not the Huntsman. 80 hammer units is equivalent to only 3.409 miles per hour, or about 5.49 kilometers per hour. This is about the same as the average walking speed in real life. So if Soldier were to move at this speed for the entire duration, it would take him 17 minutes and 36 seconds, or about the same time it takes those slow kids to walk track 4 times back in high school. You know who I'm talking about. This so far is the absolute lowest, though there will be slower. Trust me, there will be slower. Now it's time for my reasonable guess. Soldier has a lot of gear. He holds on to it, you know, big old rocket launcher, banner, shotgun, that's a lot of stuff. But even with this, I don't believe he'd be moving at full speed the entire time. Soldier will likely run his first lap the quickest and only slow down from there. I think about 5% slower from each lap, starting at 80% and ending up at 65% of his sprint speed. This means at a speed of 8.186 miles per hour or 13.17 kilometers per hour for the first lap, finishing at about a minute 50. The second lap would be completed in about 1 minute and 57 seconds, running at a speed just under 7.7 miles per hour. He finished the third lap in 2 minutes and 5 seconds, finishing his last lap in 2 minutes and 16 seconds, for a grand total mile time of 8 minutes and 8 seconds. I believe this is reasonable, seeing Soldier's shape, size, and career path. One could make the argument that because he's a soldier, he probably does a fair amount of running, though while this may be, I believe he does more jogging around the 60% speed mark, rather than trying to run a mile as fast as possible. I think 8-ish minutes, so 8 minutes, 8 seconds, give or take 10 to 20 seconds, is pretty reasonable for how fast Soldier could realistically run a mile. With the Soldier finished, that allows us to move on to Mumbles the Arsonist, Pyro. Pyro moves at what is considered base speed of 100% or 300 hammer units. This is the same speed as Sniper, Engineer, and pre-meet your match Spy. But what is base speed? What is considered the average in the TF2 universe? I mean 4, now 3, classes share this running speed. What's the conversion? Well, 300 hammer units when converted into miles per hour comes out to 13.6, and when converted into comma units is about 21.9. This is actually not too bad. The running speed of classes is just under what's considered average real-life sprint speed. So they're doing pretty darn good. Though we want to know how fast these mercenaries can run a mile. So at the base speed of 300 hammer units, it would take Pyro 4 minutes and 42 seconds if he managed to maintain this speed the whole mile, which in-game can be done. These numbers are kinda wild. Before making the video, I expected the range to be more like 7 or so minutes, not damn near Olympic speed. But this is what it comes out to, I'm just reporting on it. Now, for Pyro's fastest. A lot of your minds probably jump to the power jack, and it's understandable to think this way. I did it at first as well. It was my immediate thought, in fact. However, there is one weapon that can technically allow Pyro to move faster than just with the power jack. It's a forgotten one. That weapon is the hot hand. Yeah, people forget about this thing. For a good reason, it's terrible. Though, the speed boost technically does allow you to move faster than you would with the power jack. But I'm just kidding! I tricked you, I gaslighted you. It is the power jack, however it's just not the normal power jack. If you had a speed boost on top of that, you were able to go faster than the 405 hammer units you can with the hot hand's 1 second speed boost. Why is it 1 second? That is like nothing. Whatever. You can basically reach a max of 465.75 hammer units or 19.847 miles per hour. Okay, so rather than the 329 estimate that would have been if we just used the 405 hammer unit speed, with a speed of 465.75 hammer units, the Pyro can run a mile at fastest in 3 minutes and 1 second. 28 seconds faster than with just a normal speed boost. So close to breaking the 3-minute barrier. For Pyro's slowest. Well, Pyro has no weapons that slow him down. Like I said, I'm not taking into account crouching or being stunned by things like the Sandman, so Pyro's slowest time is still 4 minutes and 42 seconds. Faster than Scout's slowest time. We have to move on from that. We are now going to discuss Pyro's most likely real mile time. I think Pyro would be similar to Soldier, just a little bit faster. Honestly, I would say that Pyro isn't likely in worse shape than Soldier, but I don't know, he wears a big old suit, so it's impossible to tell for sure. I'm just going to skip straight to what I think his lap times would be. I believe that Pyro's first lap would be about 1 minute and 28 seconds. I believe his second lap would be about 1 minute and 34 seconds. Third lap at about 1 minute and 44 seconds. And I believe he would complete his last lap at about the same speed in which he completed his first, at 1 minute and 28 seconds. This means that the Pyro could run a mile in 6 minutes, 14 seconds. Which is quick, but for a trained professional or mercenary, I think 6 minutes is pretty reasonable, pretty doable. Okay, here are his final numbers. Pyro at his base speed can run a mile in about 4 minutes and 42 seconds. At his fastest time, he can run a mile in 3 minutes and 1 second, almost breaking that 3-minute barrier. For his slowest time, it's also 4 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, I feel like there's something in the game that, slows him down. If you guys know of anything besides, outside influences, please leave it down in the comments below. Maybe I'm just completely glossing over something. Not sure. And for my realistic time, it's probably closer to about 6 minutes and 14 seconds. Okay, now that the geese shut up, here we are. The third slowest class in the game, Demoman. Demoman's base speed is 93%, which is kind of unique, stands on its own. 93% when converted to hammer units is 280, and 280 hammer units is equivalent to 11.932 miles per hour, or 19.203 kilometers per hour. So subtracting that by 60 and converting the decimal time to more normal format, it comes out to a mile time of 5 minutes and 2 seconds. That is very close to breaking the 5-minute barrier. Wow. Even with all that gear, he can still haul. Now, we have his base. 5 minutes, 2 seconds. That's great. But what's his fastest? Like in the Soldier segment, Demoman can pretty easily, even more so than Soldier, reach terminal velocity of Team Fortress 2. But I'm uninterested in that, and I've already calculated that. Just wanted to bring it up so somebody else doesn't. Now, for the fastest boots on the ground, there are two answers to this question, and it really just depends on how you want to think about it. If we're just talking the fastest demo can move at all times, with 4 heads on the Eyelander, a shield, and the Albaba Wee Booties, we can reach a max of just over 406 hammer units, or that of a Pyro with a speed boost, or 6 hammer units faster than Scout, whatever is easier for you to imagine. That mile time would be 3 minutes and 28 seconds. Almost tying the world record off a track. But I think we're all thinking the same thing. Yes, charging. When we charge as Demoman, as long as we are not using the Scotsman's Skullcutter, we'll be able to reach a max speed of 750 hammer units, or 250% in game. The Eyelander does not stack with this, unfortunately. Any melee besides the Skullcutter will allow you to reach this speed, so it doesn't really matter what we use. 750 hammer units is dumb fast, and when converted into miles per hour, comes out to 31.595, 51.433 kilometers per hour. Hot damn, that's faster than Usain Bolt. If theoretically, Demoman could charge at this speed for a full mile, I don't know, like in a times 100 server or something, how long would it take him? By doing some complex mathematics, the answer comes out to be 1 minute and 53 seconds. What? That's just, wow. Yeah, Demoman now holds the record for the fastest mile time in the game. Now, to knock him down a peg, we go to the slowest. The only weapon in Demoman's kit that slows him down is the Scotsman's Skullcutter. It slows him down so much, he actually moves slower while charging. With the axe active, he moves at 79%, or 238 hammer units. This is 1% slower, or 2 hammer units slower, than Soldier's base movement speed. A price to pay for 234 damage to random crits, am I right? Anyway, this is easy. At Demoman's slowest, he will move just over 10.1 miles per hour and achieve a time of 555s, 5 minutes and 55 seconds. Still faster than a 6-minute mile, even with carrying a medieval axe. It's pretty impressive, actually. Now, for my guess. Demoman is probably in decent shape. I mean, just look at the dude. Look at the comics. Look at the Dynamite Abs cosmetic. Man's in good shape, even though he's drunk all the time. Honestly, I would say when Demoman isn't drunk, he could probably maintain a cool 80% speed for the first 3 laps, and maybe drops down to 75% for the last one. If he was drunk, he probably would not even make it around the first lap. Maybe not even around the first bend. But when sober, this means that his first 3 laps would be finished in 1 minute and 34 seconds, with a variance of like 2 to 3 seconds at most. I doubt he could run 1:34 on the dot every time, but he would be around there. His last lap would drop down to 1 minute and 58 seconds, barely running under 2 minutes, which is also slower than his entire mile time while charging, which is pretty ridiculous. But this would mean that Demoman's final mile time, when added up, is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. This is still far above average, and for his size would be nothing to scoff at. Here are the final numbers. At his base speed, he could run a respectable 5 minutes and 2 seconds. At his fastest, he just dominates with a time of 1 minute and 53 seconds, just blows everybody else out of the water, beats Scout by almost 50 seconds, and his slowest would not be terrible, but it would be 5 minutes and 55 seconds. To cap it off, with my personal guess, I think he could run a mile in about 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Oh, here comes Heavy. Heavy is the slowest class in the game at only 77% in TF2. He was actually 76% in TFC, a little fun fact for you guys. Anyway, 77% or 230 hammer units is 3% or 10 hammer units slower than the Soldier. But he doesn't have any sort of movement options outside of gloves running urgently, stake, and eviction notice, which all only promote linear movement and no vertical one. Right now, we don't care about that. How fast does Heavy run the mile at his base speed? Well, let's see. At 230 hammer units converted to miles per hour, we get 9.8, which is about 15.77 kilometers per hour. With this information, we can conclude that Heavy runs a mile in 6 minutes and 7 seconds. He is the only mercenary in the game that does not run at least a sub 6 mile at his base speed. Still, a 6-minute mile is very good. Now, not maybe for some of you track stars, cross-country runners, or POs. This is a solid mile time for anyone and beyond amazing for someone as big as Heavy. Heavy is likely over 330 pounds, nearing 350 to 370. So running a mile in even under 8 minutes? Stupid quick. Okay, now for Heavy's fastest time. Now, how fast can we get this brick of a man to move? Well, let's look at his options. We got the eviction notice? No, just no. Not even gonna look at that. What about the GRU? Well, yeah, actually, it does bring our movement speed to 299 hammer units, which is pretty good. While doing this segment, I actually learned something strange. Some of you may have immediately shouted at your screen, "Stake, stake!" You guys are correct. The stake does offer you more than the GRU's speed boost, allowing you to reach a speed of 310.5 hammer units. But something interesting I learned. The stake doesn't actually grant you a speed boost. No, it simply just sets your speed to 310.5 hammer units. A normal Heavy with a speed boost can move at 322 hammer units. But one with a speed boost and under the effects of stake will still move at 310.5 hammer units. It's weird, but yeah, it doesn't stack. It doesn't stack with the GRU and its speed boost either. However, if we equip the GRU and then gain a speed boost through whatever means, the disciplinary action, the conch, whatever, we can reach a speed of 418.6 hammer units, which is faster than Scout. Oh man. So let's do the math. At 418.6 hammer units, or approximately 17.838 miles per hour, we can complete a mile 4 times around the track in 3 minutes and 22 seconds. The slowest class in the game can potentially complete a mile faster than any man in real life has in 2024. That is impressive. Want to know something that's not impressive? Heavy's slowest. Well, yes, if you crouch with any minigun, you will be unable to move, technically meaning it will take infinite time to complete the mile, as you'll never actually finish it. Though, we want a time. So we turn to Heavy's miniguns, as none of his melees or secondaries actually slow him down. Well, I guess if you're eating the sandwich or whatever, it will slow you down, but like I said, we're not counting that. As of 2010, Heavy moves at 110 hammer units while spun up. However, we're all thinking the exact same thing, the Brass Beast. Unfortunately, no, the Brass Beast was added after Heavy's base movement speed while spun up was applied. Though 60% is still really slow even from 110 hammer units. Now how slow? Well, a Heavy with the Brass Beast equipped will move at just 44 hammer units, which is almost half the speed that Sniper moves while scoped in. So, 44 hammer units in miles per hour is 1.875 miles per hour. That's a literal crawl. So if Heavy were to stay spun up for an entire mile, it would take him about 32 minutes. Yeah, 32 minutes. Over half an hour. I don't think I need to say much. Real guess time. Heavy is probably in okay shape. He's just big. I honestly believe Heavy would be able to run his first lap at about 75% and lose about 10% for the next 2 laps, bringing it back to almost 75% for the last. This would mean Heavy would complete his laps in this order. First lap, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. About 2 minutes and 21 seconds for laps 2 and 3, and back to about 2 minutes 2 seconds for the last one. This would mean that Heavy could complete a mile in about 8 minutes and 46 seconds, give or take about 15 seconds. So maybe 9 minutes, maybe about 8:30. Heavy is huge, but he's not out of shape. He's simply just a big dude. So I think a little over 8.5 minutes is doable for the Russian doctor, technically. Final times. At his base speed, he could run a mile in 6 minutes and 7 seconds. At his fastest, he's beating Scout's base speed with a time of 3 minutes and 22 seconds. At his slowest, he's running a 32-minute mile. Man, gotta pick up that pace. And my realistic guess, he's likely close to 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Still going in class order, we got the Engineer. Engineer also moves at what the game considers base movement speed of 100%, or 300 hammer units. So the base mile time will not be all that difficult to figure out. It's going to be the same as it was for Pyro. So an Engineer can run a mile at his base speed in 4 minutes and 42 seconds. The legs may be small, but they sure as hell work. We went quickly through that last part. This part will be rather quick too. Engineer has no weapons that give him a speed boost, which kind of surprised me. I feel like they would have at least made one weapon that allows him to run a little quicker. I mean, there's the Eureka effect that allows you to teleport quickly, but that doesn't really count. Sorry, this is not a video about weapon balance, that was last month. This is a video about movement speed and how fast these fictional characters could run a mile. So the Engineer has sentry jumping, but that doesn't count either. Engineers can only be sped up through stuff like the disciplinary action and the Conjurer. When speed boosted, Engineer reaches a speed of 405 hammer units, or just a tad faster than Scout. 405 hammer units is equivalent to 17.258 miles per hour, or 27.818 kilometers per hour, which allows Engineer to run a mile in 3 minutes and 29 seconds. Now for the Cowboy's slowest. Engineer has no weapons that slow him down. The only thing that does is hauling buildings. Now I know some of you Shaunic fans may be going, but technically the toolbox, gearbox thing is the own weapon. Shut up. When hauling was first added to the game, for those who don't know, Engineer originally didn't have the ability to move buildings when TF2 launched. It wasn't until the Engineer update in 2010. Little fun fact for you guys. But originally when it was added, it was a reduction of 25%. Around the gunmetal update, the penalty was reduced to just 10%. When hauling, he moves at only 90% speed, or 270 hammer units, a little bit slower than Demoman, when he used to actually move slower than Heavy. Wild to think about. Enough about pointless facts. I made a whole video about that already. So 90%, 270 hammer units a miles per hour is, who cares, we want times. Engineer running at this speed can complete a mile in 5 minutes and 13 seconds, which happens to be my fastest mile time I ever ran in high school. Engineer ran at the same pace I ran my fastest mile, while hauling what could be up to 100 pounds of scrap metal. The Mercs are really built differently, like seriously. For my reasonable guess, this is going to be kind of boring. I honestly believe Engineers pretty much just don't get tired. I just don't believe in it. While he does go,
"That was getting heavy,"
while placing down buildings after hauling, I believe this is simply him just saying that so he doesn't hurt the player's feelings, since we know a lot of TF2 players are out of shape. Except the ones who watch my Mercs lift video. You guys are cool. Anyway, Engineer can honestly probably run about the same pace as Scout in relation to his own speed. What I mean is I believe that Engineer can run about 80% the entire duration. I believe I said Scout can run 85% for the first 3 laps and 80% for just the last lap. But Scout is Scout, that's his job. Engineer likely isn't that conditioned, but he still is very well conditioned. So without much number crunching, the time comes out to 5 minutes and 52 seconds. I believe besides Scout and one of the upcoming classes, he is in the minority that can actually run it under a 6-minute mile. Not taking into account stamina. While he isn't all that tall and doesn't have a huge stride, he's got grit. Engineer's dog. Final times, no messing around. Base, 4 minutes 42 seconds. Fastest, 3 minutes and 29 seconds. Slowest, 5 minutes 13 seconds. Realistic answer, not too much slower than that, with a time of 5 minutes 52 seconds. Oh, we're on to the support classes. Home stretch. The first to support is Medic. Medic is our first class with a unique base movement speed that is more than the TF2 base movement speed. And not Scout. So I guess he's not. Whatever. Medic moves at what the game considers 107%, or when converted into hammer units, 320. 320 hammer units is approximately 13.636 miles per hour, or 21.945 kilometers per hour. This means that if Medic could run continuously, you would be able to finish the mile in just 4 minutes and 24 seconds, or 18 seconds faster than Pyro, Engineer, and Sniper. Medic is pretty fast, but how fast can he get? Now technically the answer is the speed cap, or even a little bit faster than that, especially with the quick fix. Even without counting blast jumps involving the quick fix or tethering yourself to a charging Demoman, all of the medi guns as of the last 7-8 years or so allow you to move at the speed of your heal patient, which most of the time really only applies to scouts, but you know, that's kind of cheap, so I'm not counting it for this specific part. I could make some excuse such as you need a scout to pull this off, but I mean, you need a conch soldier to pull off a lot of the other maxes. I'm not counting it because I don't know, I don't want to. Technically, Medic could run a time of 2 minutes and 42 if he tethers himself to a full boost Babyface Blaster Scout or a charging Demoman with the quick fix, but I don't think I'm going to count it for this one. You can keep that in mind if you wish, but we're going to look at it raw. Medic with a speed boost can move pretty fast. However, there is one weapon that is often forgotten about that increases your movement speed: the Overdose. The Overdose allows you to gain an additional 20% speed if you have full Uber, and it increments by about 2% for, forget, it's every 10% Uber you have, something like that. So if you have a full Uber and a speed boost, your speed caps out at 510. Just 10 hammer units slower than the speed cap. 510 hammer units converted to miles per hour is 21.732 miles per hour, or 34.974 kilometers per hour. Medic's got wheels. With that, this means Medic can run a mile at its fastest, just a bit slower than an Escape Plan plus Speed Boost Soldier or Babyface's Blaster Scout, with a time of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Just 4 seconds shy. That's not too shabby though. Mercs out here be beating world records left and right. Medic's slowest. Well, there's nothing that actually slows Medic down. He's pretty set in his ways. I mean, there's things like the Sandman and walking backwards, but like I said, I'm not counting those. So, his slowest time is the same as his base time, of 4 minutes and 24 seconds. Now for my reasonable guess. Medic is likely in really good shape. I mean, he has to keep up with the team. And he was the second fastest class in the game. He still is, but now he's tied for second. Honestly, like Engineer, I feel like his conditioning is quite good. I probably shouldn't be mentioning it this late into the video, but it's better late than never. Yes, all Mercs can probably run at full speed for the entire mile, or even a marathon or around the world, due to the TF2 universe stuff like Australium and Medics tinkering with all the Mercs. But that's no fun. It's too simple. So let's just pretend that doesn't exist for the rest of these segments and for the ones that came before. I know one of you probably was thinking that. I remember on my Mercs Lift video, people were bringing up that it's the TF universe, so what we think of the real universe doesn't necessarily apply, but just for this, we're going to pretend that they're somewhat normal people. Okay? Now that's out of the way. Medic can likely keep up with Engineers and Scouts when it comes to percentages. I believe that Medic is likely to run in a way where he saves energy for the last lap. So I believe Medic will run his first lap at about 70%, the next two at 75%, and the last one at 80%. This makes his lap times 1 minute and 34 seconds, 1 minute and 28 seconds for the next two laps, and finishing his last lap in 1 minute 23. That's a half-decent split. Final time? 5 minutes and 53 seconds. That's pretty reasonable, but I could be wrong. it's possible that he runs 80% every lap, bringing his time closer to 5 minutes and 32 seconds. I believe he's somewhere in this range. While I never did this for the other Mercs, I'm going to average those times and say he runs about a 5 minute 45 second mile. Here are the final times. Base mile and slowest mile of 4 minutes and 24 seconds, not too bad. The fastest mile of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. And a realistic time of around 5 minutes and 45 seconds. We made it to pretty much the unanimously most hated class in Team Fortress 2, Sniper. Sniper also moves at what the game considers base speed. Mundy runs at 100% or 300 hammer units. This means he would also run the same mile time as Engineer and Pyro, which is a time of 4 minutes and 42 seconds. That seems really unrealistic to me. I don't know. It is what it is. Sniper also doesn't have any weapons that speed him up. So just like Engineers, we have to turn to the disciplinary action or conch for a speed boost. Like Engineer, this means that he'll run a max speed of 405 hammer units, which means just like Engineer, his fastest is 3 minutes and 29 seconds. We are really going through this quick. Now for the first times that are actually different, I didn't do this for Engineer's part, but I am going to do it for Sniper specifically because it is so ridiculous it'd be a crime not to include it. Currently Sniper's slowest speed is technically not in the game anymore. However, I just have to bring it up. In the olden days, the Cozy Camper used to offer a speed penalty while zoomed in. It's kind of why it got its name in the first place. It makes a lot more sense when you remember that was a stat when it first was added. While it stated that it had a 60% penalty while scoped in, it was actually 98.4% for all sniper rifles. Just not the Huntsman. The Huntsman worked for some reason. You were basically a sitting duck. But you could technically move. You moved at 2.08 hammer units per second. No, not miles per hour. Hammer units. Which when converted to miles per hour is 0.088. Less than a tenth of a mile per hour. Which means that Sniper could complete the mile in 11 hours, 21 minutes, and 49 seconds. Though I'll not be putting it on the Sniper card in the left-hand corner because it would kind of confuse things and make things really messy. Sniper currently cannot be slowed down as much. The slowest he moves is 80 hammer units, which is achieved by charging/scoping with any sniper rifle other than the Huntsman. Well, the Huntsman's not a sniper rifle, but you know what I mean. To put into perspective, this is the same speed that Soldier walks while charging the Cow Mangler, and you know how slow that is. I also mentioned this in the Heavy segment, but fun fact for you guys, Sniper's scope speed and Heavy's ref walk-up speed used to be the same. Now Heavy moves at 110 hammer units. Good for him. Lost some weight. Back to Sniper. 80 hammer units in miles per hour is 3.409 or 5.486 kilometers per hour. We already did the math since we had to do the same for the Soldier segment, so we could just take that number. This means that Sniper can walk a mile, I guess, in 17 minutes and 36 seconds. Realistic guess. Sniper is a weird one. Sniper lives a rather sedentary lifestyle. He has to. He's a sniper who will sit on 2-4 battlements for hours at a time. While I don't think he doesn't do cardio, I think it's a neglected part of his skill set. Honestly, Sniper is probably close to the worst, if not the worst mile runner on this list. More so than even Heavy, though he is faster than Heavy, so I still think he will have a better mile time than those two. Those being Heavy and Soldier. Probably should have explained that. But now I did. Why am I getting caught up on this? I believe Sniper will start at about 80%, but lose 10% per lap until he's running at only half speed. So 80% for the first, 70% for the second, 60% for the third, and 50% for the final lap. This would make his lap times 1 minute and 23 seconds for the first lap, where he likely gassed himself just a tad. He'd be still making good time for his second lap, crossing the line at 1 minute and 34 seconds. Now he is really struggling on the third lap with a time of 1 minute and 50 seconds. And he cruises into the finish line on his last lap with a time of 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Added up, this gives Sniper a final time of 6 minutes and 59 seconds. That is just scraping by on the sub 7 minute mile. Sniper is a mercenary. He probably is in half decent shape, but running is most likely not his strong suit. Even with that being the case, Sniper runs a respectable 6 minutes and 59 seconds. Here are the Australian's final numbers. At base, he finishes a mile in 4 minutes and 42 seconds. At his fastest, he finishes a mile in 3 minutes and 29 seconds. At his slowest, he still takes ages with a time of 17 minutes and 36 seconds. And for a reasonable guess, he could probably finish a mile in just under 7 minutes with a time of 6 minutes and 59 seconds. Finally, for one of the weakest yet most annoying classes in the game outside of the one mentioned previously, the Spy. When Team Fortress 2 was launched, Spy moved at the same speed as Pyro, Ingi, and Sniper with a speed of 100% or 300 ham units, which meant it was impossible to catch up to 6 out of the 9 classes unless they weren't moving or they stopped for a second. Don't even think about trying to chase down a med or scout moving towards the battlefield. However, as of July 2016, with the release of Meet Your Match, a change I never thought I would have seen was added. They increased the Spy's base movement speed by 7%, up to 107%, or to 320 hammer units from 300, however you want to think about it, which is also the same speed as Medic. This change may have turned the tides a little bit, now allowing him to potentially catch up to Pyros, Engineers, and Snipers, or keep pace with other Spies, of course, and Medics. Scouts are still often off the table for the most part. While this isn't a completely opinionated video, this was absolutely a great change in my opinion. So now Spy moves at the speed of Medic, which allows him to run the same mile time as Medic, with a time of 4 minutes and 24 seconds. For Spy's fastest, well, you have 3 options for achieving this speed. The first option is the Conch/Disciplinary Action Soldier, which is what pretty much every other class uses. The second option is using the Big Urter and getting a kill with it. Surprisingly, no, it doesn't need to be a backstab, not sure why. And the final method is using the short speed boost that the Spy gets while using the Dead Ringer. Unfortunately, all of these use the speed boost preset and don't actually increase the base speed of Spy. They just set his speed to 425 hammer units, or 18.11 miles per hour, 29.145 kilometers per hour. If a Spy could run at the boost speed for the entire duration, he would run a mile in 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Not all that bad. Spy's slowest. Well, a Spy doesn't really have any weapons that necessarily slow him down. However, there is one way to slow yourself: the Disguise Kit. While you don't inherit any of the speed buffs or slowdowns from the weapon the class is holding, you do slow down to their base speed, with the exception of Scout. So, if you disguise as Heavy, you'll move at the same speed as Heavy, which is 77% or 230 hammer units. A Spy disguised as Heavy will run at the same speed as Heavy. This means that he'll run a time of 6 minutes and 7 seconds. Still relatively fast. My reasonable guess. Spy, like Scout, Medic, and Engineer, is probably pretty well conditioned and doesn't skip cardio. The only reason I make this assumption is because he's an assassin, though unlike Sniper, he can't do it from across the map and while pissing in jars. It requires him to get close, often chasing people down. I think the Spy is like Scout, like Father like Son, running 85% the entire duration except for the very last lap, where he slows down to just 80%. For lap times, this means the average lap for the first 3 would be 1 minute and 18 seconds, which is pretty quick. His last lap would only slow down to a time of 1 minute and 23 seconds, and then all added up, this gives the Spy a time of 5 minutes and 17 seconds. While the Spy is on the older side, I believe those legs still work and could carry him. Who knows, maybe in his heyday he was breaking the 5-minute barrier, but as of now I think 5:17 is pretty reasonable. Here are the final numbers. At base speed, he ties Medic with a time of 4 minutes and 24 seconds. At his fastest, he runs beyond a respectable 3:19, sitting on his own. At his slowest, when pretending to be the slowest class in the game, he still manages a time of 6 minutes and 7 seconds. In reality, probably run close to a 5 minute 17 second mile. Oh hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for sticking it out. This video took many hours and many weekends to put together. Do you like content like this? Let me know down below. Also, let me know whether you thought these were realistic numbers for the Mercs, or even post your own fastest mile times. It's up to you. My next major project is going to be a little more TF2 oriented, and a little less about outside influences such as lifting. But don't worry, I do have an idea planned for a video similar to this one, which will likely come out around August. Thank you all for watching. See you next time. Peace out.